When Larry David stops cracking jokes, the whole world goes quiet. Yesterday, outside a low-key office building in Santa Monica, there was no humor left. No smirk, no half-laugh, no trace of that famous pretty good. What we saw was a man completely drained, looking older and worn out, just standing there with tired eyes locked on the ground, shaking his head like he'd hit the end of the road. He looked like someone who'd spent every ounce of energy trying to make sense of what went wrong and finally couldn't anymore. This wasn't some random paparazzi moment or a tabloid blurb. If you're reading this, it's because something real broke through the surface, something big that's been buried for a long time. Larry David himself confirmed it, and it's not just about Rob Reiner disappearing from the picture. The truth cuts way deeper. It's about what really went down before that, who knew the whole time, and who kept quiet while Larry carried that silence like a weight on his back. Sources close to him say Larry never meant to speak out. No PR spin, no legal prep, no carefully worded statement. But then he saw the story twisting, the headlines changing shape, and the lawyers getting ready to rewrite what actually happened. He couldn't take it anymore. When he realized Rob Reiner might get blamed for something he didn't cause, that's when Larry finally snapped. One shaky, emotional confession flipped the entire story upside down. Because there's one crucial piece the mainstream keeps dodging, and it's about to change everything. One dinner, that's all it took. Just one quiet dinner that nobody seems to want to talk about. 3 weeks before the police showed up at the Reiner home in Brentwood, Larry David says that dinner changed everything. He swears that what Rob said that night explains it all, and once you hear it, you'll understand exactly why Larry couldn't keep his mouth shut anymore. Something at that table shattered the way Larry saw the whole situation, and now, little by little, that truth is finally slipping into the open. Picture this. 3 weeks before the headlines blew up, before social media started spinning wild theories, before the word tragedy lost all meaning, there was just one simple dinner in a quiet, tucked-away restaurant. No assistants, no paparazzi, no big Hollywood circle, just Larry David and Rob Reiner, two old friends sitting face to face like they'd done 100 times before. Usually, nights like that are full of jokes, smart talk, and the usual banter about getting older or how ridiculous the business has become. But this night, it hit different. Larry says Rob wasn't acting like himself at all. The man who normally lights up a room sat there drained, barely touching his plate for almost 2 hours. He just stared into his glass of water like Levy it held answers he couldn't say out loud. Larry tried to break the tension, cracked a few jokes, threw out a couple of lighthearted lines about cholesterol or blood pressure, hoping to lift the mood, but Rob cut that off fast. Whatever was weighing on him wasn't small, and Larry could tell this was no ordinary bad night. Something heavy was sitting between them, and it was only a matter of time before it blew up. This wasn't about stress or bad lab results. This was fear, real, raw fear that you could see in Rob's eyes. Not fear of critics or career fallout, fear of his own home. Rob leaned in across that dinner table, dropped his voice low, and said something that Larry swears he'll never ever forget. He said, "I don't know who is living in my house anymore." That one line froze the air between them. Larry tried to play it off with a weak joke, something about how people never really move out these days, but Rob didn't even blink, didn't laugh, nothing. Then Rob did something totally out of character. He reached across the table and grabbed Larry's arm. Not rough, not aggressive, just desperate, like a man who finally needed someone to hear him.
Desperate people are very particular, like even like Quasimodo.
That single touch hit harder than Larry expected because Rob Reiner wasn't the type to reach for anyone. He was calm, measured, the kind of guy who always led with logic and patience. But that night, something deep inside him was breaking apart, and Larry could feel it. Rob's hand tightened, his tone dropped to almost a whisper, and right there in that quiet restaurant, he said, "He's looking at us like we're prey, not parents, prey." Larry froze solid. His smile vanished instantly. This wasn't theater or exaggeration. This was raw truth spilling out from a man who'd been carrying too much for too long. Larry says in that exact moment, something inside him snapped too, like a silent alarm screaming that he should pay attention, but he didn't. He told himself it was just stress, just paranoia, just another bad night, but deep down, he knew better. Rob wasn't ranting, he was confiding, passing Larry something heavy, something dark, something people in Hollywood whisper about but never dare to face. And that's what haunts Larry the most, that he stayed quiet when he should have listened. Larry didn't call anyone that night. No texts, no follow-ups, no questions, nothing. He just went home and told himself it couldn't possibly be as bad as it sounded. He brushed it off like it was just a weird moment between friends, convinced himself Rob had a rough night and needed space. But now Larry admits that dinner wasn't venting. It was a warning. And looking back, he says it was screaming at him the entire time, and he just didn't want to hear it. For years, Larry clung to the same story to make peace with himself. He didn't have proof, so he couldn't say anything. That excuse helped him sleep, helped him keep his head down, helped him do what he's always done best, stay far away from the chaos. But lately, he stopped believing that story. He's saying now that it doesn't hold up anymore, and that realization changes everything. He says he doesn't see it as one shocking event anymore. It's fragments, pieces that never made sense until now. Little looks, tense silences, offhand comments that didn't connect back then, but now feel like the first scenes of something deeply wrong. He compares it to rewatching a movie and catching all the red flags you missed the first time. And there's one memory he can't shake, one moment that keeps looping in his mind. It happened about 6 months ago at a high-profile charity gala. Everyone else remembers the glitz, the red carpet, the smiles, the perfect family photos, but Larry remembers something completely different. He wasn't out front with the cameras, he was tucked away in a quiet green room behind the stage. No press, no flash, no noise, just Larry, Michelle, and Nick sitting together. Larry expected an easy hangout, maybe a few jokes before the event, just a chill family moment, but what he saw instead still gives him chills. That's not what Larry walked into, not even close. The second he stepped inside that green room, he said the air just changed. It wasn't loud, not chaotic, just this chilling silence that felt wrong. Michelle was doing totally normal things, fixing her dress, checking her reflection, but Nick wasn't beside her. He was standing over her. And that single detail made Larry's stomach twist. Then Nick leaned in close and whispered something. Larry couldn't make out the words, but he didn't need to, because right then, Michelle flinched, not emotionally, physically. Her shoulders jerked back fast, like her body reacted before her mind even caught up. Larry says that tiny moment burned into his memory like a brand. It wasn't confusion, it was instinct. And in that split second, the whole atmosphere changed. That room didn't feel like a backstage prep space anymore. It felt wrong. Then out of nowhere, a photographer stepped in, and boom, Nick flipped like a switch. The smile appeared instantly, that Hollywood perfect grin that could charm anyone in seconds. Larry said it hit him hard because it didn't look natural, it looked performed. It wasn't warmth, it was a mask. Nick wasn't just charming, he was acting. And that's when Larry realized something chilling. There were two versions of this guy. The public one, smooth, confident, camera-ready, and the private one, whose presence made every room feel smaller, tighter, colder. Watching that switch flip in real time shook Larry to his core. But still, he stayed quiet. He didn't step in, didn't pull Michelle aside, didn't ask if she was okay, and that silence haunts him now. Because he knows what he saw, and deep down he knows something most people don't want to say out loud. People don't react like that unless fear has trained them to. And the worst part? Larry says he wasn't the only one who noticed. Others saw it too. They felt that shift in the air every time Nick showed up. They stopped inviting him to things, kept their distance, whispered behind closed doors. But no one warned Rob. No one wanted to touch it. And now that silence looks like the biggest mistake of all. They all let Rob and Michelle walk through those Brentwood gates night after night, pretending life was picture perfect, even when everyone around them knew it wasn't. Larry says that silence didn't protect their image. It protected the danger living inside that house. From the outside, it all looked flawless. Tall gates, perfect lawns, Hollywood power, and a storybook marriage. But behind those doors, Larry insists things had been crumbling for years. Slow, quiet, and hidden behind polite smiles. He says Rob had opened up to him more than once about money problems, but it wasn't just the usual financial stress or family squabbles. This was darker. This was control. Larry says he had to lower his voice when he finally said the word that explained it all: extortion. It started small, almost sneaky, like testing boundaries, but then it grew. It wasn't help me out anymore. It was give me money or I ruin the family's name. Larry swears Nick knew exactly where to hit. Rob and Michelle weren't just parents, they were a legacy. And that legacy turned into leverage. Larry once told Rob with no jokes, no sarcasm, just raw honesty: I cut him off, he falls apart. I keep him close, we fall apart. Larry says that line wasn't drama. It was the truth of a man who felt trapped, boxed in by love, loyalty, and fear. For decades, Larry made people laugh by finding humor in human weakness. But this wasn't a weakness. He says what he saw in that house was emptiness, a hollow space where empathy was supposed to live. It scared him because it wasn't loud, it was calculated. And there's one memory that Larry says still follows him: the Thanksgiving visit. He says that moment still burns in his mind, the second he looked Nick straight in the eyes and felt nothing. No warmth, no guilt, no trace of humanity, just coldness. And that, he says, is when he finally understood just how bad things really were. Looking back, Larry says there was no gratitude, no shame, no warmth, just that ice-cold focus that made your stomach drop. You could almost see the gears turning behind Nick's eyes, like he was doing calculations in real time. What can I take next? Who can I lean on? What leverage is still left? This wasn't emotion, it was strategy. And then Larry shared the one detail that made everything unbearable to hear. Because this stopped being about money a long time ago. It was about control. Rob had started locking his own bedroom door at night. Just think about that for a second. A man in his late 70s, one of Hollywood's most respected filmmakers, living inside a multi-million-dollar Brentwood mansion, sleeping behind a locked door because he was scared of his own son. Rob once tried to laugh it off, saying something like, "Gotta keep the ghosts out." But Larry knew that wasn't a joke. Rob wasn't scared of ghosts, he was scared of something real, something standing way too close. He was living on high alert, barely sleeping, jumpy at every sound, nerves completely shot. And while Rob was slowly breaking down under the pressure, Larry says Michelle never stopped believing things could get better. She was the hopeful one, always forgiving, always trying to find a light in the darkness. Larry remembers her saying things like, "It's just a phase," or "He's struggling," or "We just need to love him harder." His voice cracked when he talked about her. He said it straight. She loved him. And Larry truly believes that love, that endless forgiveness.
Quasimodo,
very particular. Now the hunchback had to have the best-looking girl in the village.
It wasn't an explosion. It was a slow, suffocating buildup. Larry doesn't see a snap or a spiral. He sees years of pressure, manipulation, and emotional control tightening little by little until there was nowhere left to go. And through it all, Nick waited. He waited for the moment his parents were tired enough, fragile enough, desperate enough to still believe he could change. People keep calling it a tragedy, like it came out of nowhere, but Larry doesn't buy that for a second. He says this wasn't random, it was constructed, layer by layer, brick by brick, built in silence while everyone around them pretended the cracks were just normal family problems. But then came the word, the one that shattered that illusion completely. Larry says there was a project, and Nick had been pushing for it hard. Not a fun side idea, not some harmless creative pitch. This was something else entirely, something that tied everything together, and something that Rob had quietly refused to be part of. It wasn't a request, it was a demand. Nick wanted to direct. He wanted full control, total authority, the keys to everything, and he wanted the now. No patience, no buildup, no proving ground. Larry says Nick wasn't asking for a chance, he was demanding an inheritance while his father was still alive. Rob told him no, Not out of anger, not out of ego, but out of reality. Larry says Rob saw what everyone else was too polite to admit. Nick wasn't ready. Not emotionally, not mentally, not professionally. Rob had built his career on discipline and patience, and he knew those were lessons his son hadn't learned yet. When Rob finally drew that line, the entire energy between them changed. He told Nick straight up that trust wasn't something you inherit, it's something you earn. If Nick wanted a future, he had to get clean, really clean. Not the kind of clean you post about online, not the image management kind. Real change, the kind that comes with humility, consistency, and accountability. But Larry says that to someone like Nick, the word no doesn't mean not yet, it means humiliation. Larry's take is sharp. He says this wasn't an outburst or a meltdown, it was entitlement, the reaction of someone who couldn't stand being told no. Rob's refusal wasn't rejection, it was a mirror, and when Nick looked into it, he couldn't handle what he saw looking back. That's why Larry can't stand hearing legal teams and PR spin this whole situation as some sudden breakdown. He says flat out, there was nothing sudden about it. It was layered, cold, built piece by piece over the years, pressure mounting, charm disguising control, the smooth public face masking the unsettling private one. Larry says the story people are reading now is only the final act of something that had been quietly written long before anyone was paying attention. And then comes the moment that still breaks Larry every time he talks about it. 2 days before everything went down, Rob called him. Just a simple call. Larry didn't pick up. Straight to voicemail. No message, just silence. He didn't call back. He figured it could wait. He was busy, tired, caught up in work. But now he says that silence doesn't feel empty anymore. It feels heavy, like a door left half open that he never walked through. Larry's voice cracked when he talked about it. You could hear the regret in every word, because deep down he knows that call wasn't random. It was a final reach for help, and he missed it. "I'll never know what he wanted to say," Larry murmured, his voice cracking under the weight of it all. He's convinced Rob knew time was running out, that he could feel it closing in around him, like the air itself was getting thinner. But Larry says the hardest part isn't even what happened inside that Brentwood house, it's what's happening now. Ever since he spoke up, Hollywood feels different, colder, quieter. People are whispering again, but not about gossip this time. They're whispering about guilt, about silence, about how many people saw the warning signs and still chose comfort over courage. What eats Larry alive now is watching those same people flood social media with broken heart emojis and teary tributes, acting shocked, acting blindsided, pretending they never saw it coming when deep down they did. Larry says what makes him sick is the hypocrisy, because just 3 months before everything happened, those same friends were already backing away from Nick. No invites, no dinners, no private hangouts, not because they were worried about Rob or Michelle, but because Nick made them uncomfortable. Nobody wanted to deal with the mess, they just wanted the shine. They wanted the funny Rob, the brilliant director, the Hollywood legend, not the exhausted Rob. Not the anxious one, not the man quietly falling apart and hoping someone, anyone, would actually ask if he was okay. Instead of stepping in, they stepped back. They let the Reiners handle the storm alone while the industry turned the other way. And Larry doesn't spare himself either. He owns it. He says something that's been echoing through every studio lot since he spoke out. "We didn't want the nightmare, so we stopped asking how things were at home." That one line cuts through every fake tribute, every PR-crafted post, every crocodile tear, because behind all the red carpets and security gates, all that protection means nothing when the danger comes from inside your own walls. You can be surrounded by people every single day and still be completely alone when it really counts. Larry says that's what truly broke Rob and Michelle. Not one night, not one explosion, but the slow, suffocating buildup. Months of people looking away, years of polite excuses, too many moments when someone felt that uneasy chill, knew something was off, and still said, "It's not my place." He says Hollywood loves sympathy posts and hashtags, but when it was time to actually protect someone, everyone protected their comfort instead. That's the part Larry can't forgive, the silence that wrapped around a family until it crushed them from the inside. And now, every time he sees another tribute trend online, he says it feels less like love and more like a cover-up, because everyone's mourning the loss, but no one's owning the part they played in letting it happen. Now, with the trial creeping closer every single day, Larry David is doing something no one saw coming. He's not hiding. He's not softening his words, not letting anyone polish or manage his story. He's out there, talking to reporters, to friends, even to random people who stop him on the street just to ask what really happened. And Larry tells them straight, it doesn't feel like justice. It feels like penance. Because once you see the full pattern, once you realize how many moments there were where someone could have stepped in and didn't, peace doesn't come knocking, responsibility does. Larry says he's not chasing closure anymore. He's facing consequence. He knows what's coming next, too. The defense is already laying their groundwork. Confusion, instability, loss of control. A carefully crafted script meant to make everything sound accidental, like tragedy just happened. But Larry isn't letting that version stand. He's done letting the truth get rewritten. What he's describing isn't chaos, it's choice. It's a pattern built piece by piece, decision by decision, until there was no turning back. He calls it what it is, strategy, not breakdown. And if telling that truth means burning bridges in the industry, Larry says he's ready to light the match himself. The whole town feels frozen right now, not from grief, but from fear. People are terrified of what happens when the quiet whispers finally become sworn testimony, when all the secrets that used to hide behind locked doors end up in a public courtroom for everyone to hear. Larry's made one thing crystal clear. He's willing to testify. No lawyers speaking for him, no PR filters, no jokes to soften the edge. Just him, standing there as himself, speaking plainly about what it's like to watch his closest friend fall apart in slow motion, and to know it didn't have to happen. He believes this trial won't just be watched because of who's involved, but because of what it reveals. About the way this town protects image over people, silence over truth. And the legal teams know it too. That's why, for the first time in years, Hollywood isn't buzzing, it's holding its breath. Because once Larry speaks under oath, the truth won't be a whisper anymore. It'll be recorded forever. Larry David isn't the kind of guy you can charm, confuse, or buy off. He doesn't need fame, doesn't need money, and definitely doesn't need a comeback. He's got nothing to gain, and that's exactly what makes him dangerous right now. Because what Larry's putting out there isn't gossip, it's motive. He says straight up, this whole thing was never about losing control. It was about entitlement, about greed, about the slow, icy absence of empathy that built over years. Then Larry drops the line that slices right through the entire defense playbook. He says if investigators can prove even half of what he's been hinting at, the quiet coercion, the financial manipulation, the calculated control, then the defense's story collapses. Because as Larry puts it, people who lose control don't negotiate, they don't plan, they don't leverage. And he's right, that's not confusion, that's control. Larry doesn't sugarcoat it either. He calls Nick a chameleon, someone who could walk into any room, read every face, and instantly shift into whatever version of himself the moment required. When Nick wanted something, he could light the place up. He'd drop perfect movie quotes, charm everyone with stories, shake hands, laugh in all the right spots, and make people feel like they were part of something special. But the second he got what he came for, everything changed. The warmth vanished, the charm shut off, and the real face slipped through, the cold one. Larry says that switch, that terrifying instant flip, was what kept Rob awake at night. Because you never knew which Nick was walking through the door, the slick talker with the easy grin, or the silent presence that could drain all the air from the room in seconds. That unpredictability kept Rob on edge constantly, always waiting for the shift, always watching for the next mood change. Larry says it was like living in a psychological minefield where every step felt dangerous. And then he shared a moment he can't erase, one that still replays in his head. Just a few months back, he was at Rob's place, sitting with him and Nick, watching a Lakers game. The team was losing, the mood was casual, until Nick broke the silence with a sharp comment about the players. Larry won't repeat it word for word, but he said it was dark, too dark for what should have been a harmless game night. The room went quiet, the air shifted, and for a second, Larry says he saw that same chilling look he'd seen before, the one that made Rob's whole body tense up. That one offhand remark turned a simple basketball night into something you couldn't shake off. And Larry swears, in that silence, he knew. Rob wasn't just nervous, he was afraid. Larry says even with the TV blasting and the game getting heated, the air dropped cold. Nick suddenly muttered that the players should be punished for playing like that. Most people might have shrugged it off as random sports frustration, but Larry didn't. He said the tone, the look, it wasn't normal. Nick wasn't joking, wasn't smiling. He was locked on the screen with this chilling, fixed stare that made the whole room feel wrong. Rob noticed it instantly. Larry remembers the exact second it happened, the way Rob reached for the remote fast, changing the channel without saying a single word, not because he cared about what was on TV, but because he was managing the room, trying to shift the energy, calm things down before it turned. Larry said you could see it, Rob walking on eggshells inside his own living room, adjusting his tone, choosing every move carefully, like he was trying to keep the peace in his own home. Then Larry said something that still shakes him. I saw Rob shrink. He said it quietly, almost whispering. A giant of a man, a legend, sinking into the couch because he was afraid of his own son's mood. That image shattered everything. The illusion that money, fame, or status can protect you from what's really going on inside your walls. Larry says it plainly, it doesn't. Rob had everything people dream of: power, respect, legacy, the kind of influence that shapes entire generations. But none of it mattered, not when the danger lived just down the hall. That was the part nobody wants to believe, that fear can exist even in mansions, that silence can echo even louder when you've got everything. But Larry insists this story doesn't end with what happened that night. It's still unfolding, just in quieter ways. While the world obsesses over the trial, the headlines, and who's to blame, another kind of damage has been spreading in the shadows, the kind that doesn't trend, doesn't get sound bites. He's talking about Roy and Jake, the ones left behind in the wake of all this. Larry says they're strong, unbelievably strong, but also deeply broken in ways people can't see. Not because they lost their parents in one tragic moment, but because they watched them fade for years, slowly, painfully, while everyone around them pretended it was all fine. He says that kind of loss doesn't hit once, it lingers, it changes you. And the saddest part? Larry believes the real damage started long before the world ever knew something was wrong. Every argument, every tense silence, every quiet demand chipped away at them, slowly, painfully, until there was almost nothing left. Larry says Nick didn't destroy Rob and Michelle in one dramatic moment. It happened piece by piece. Nearly a decade of pressure, manipulation, and emotional exhaustion. Every selfish demand and every night filled with that quiet, watchful fear stole a little more peace from that house. The light didn't vanish all at once, it faded. And that's where Larry's voice starts to crack, because this is the part that breaks him the most. None of it had to happen. Larry swears it could have been stopped. He says if even one person had been brave enough to make that call 6 months earlier, just one, things might have gone differently. Not the polished, PR-managed kind of intervention with NDAs and reputation control, but a real one. One with hard boundaries, real separation, and consequences that actually meant something. But instead, silence won. Fear won. Fear of embarrassment, fear of bad press, fear of being the one who overreacted. Hollywood's golden rule stayed intact: protect the image at all costs. And that obsession didn't just hide the problem, it fed it. Larry says that's the part no one wants to admit. The system that rewards silence created the very conditions that destroyed two people everyone claimed to love. Now, as the truth unravels, the industry is asking a question that every parent dreads, but few dare to face. When does helping turn into enabling? When does love start becoming dangerous? Larry doesn't claim to have the answer. He's not pretending to be the hero in this story, but he refuses to let people keep acting like the question doesn't exist, because that's the lie that kept this whole thing alive. Denial, polite silence, the idea that staying out of it somehow keeps you clean. Larry says that mindset, the one that says don't get involved, don't make waves, don't hurt the brand, That's what killed the truth long before anything else did. And now he's forcing people to look straight at it. No more pretending, no more hiding behind politeness. Because if nobody learns from this, then all that pain, all that loss means nothing. And Larry says that would be the real tragedy. Larry described his final visit to the Brentwood home in haunting detail. The driveway was wrapped in yellow police tape, the kind that makes everything feel too real. Flowers, candles, and handwritten letters were stacked high along the gate, Hollywood's version of mourning on display. But Larry didn't look at the tributes. He didn't even glance at the cameras hovering nearby. His eyes were fixed on the house itself, those walls, that roof, the windows that had seen everything. Then he said something that stopped everyone cold. "Those walls weren't built to keep people out," he murmured. "They were built to keep the nightmare in." The air shifted. That line hit like a hammer because it wasn't just about one family, it was about an entire system, a whole culture that had learned to look away. Everyone saw the signs and everyone stayed quiet. The nightmare stayed sealed behind luxury and silence until it finally exploded. But Larry says something's changing now. Ever since he spoke up, it feels like a spell has broken over the city. For the first time in years, people are actually talking. Not about red carpets or power deals, but about fear, about guilt, about the real cost of pretending everything is fine. Because in Hollywood, silence isn't awkward, it's currency. It's how people survive. It's how reputations stay polished while the truth rots underneath designer gowns and charity galas. Larry says the moment he finally opened his mouth, he could feel the cracks spreading, the floodgates starting to move. And he believes more voices are coming, not just the famous ones, but the real witnesses. The assistants, the drivers, the house staff, the ones who saw it all up close, but were never allowed to speak. He says they've been carrying those memories in silence, and now they're starting to realize they don't have to anymore. Larry says soon the real stories will surface. The smashed phones, the holes in the walls, the late-night shouting neighbors pretended not to hear because it was easier to act like nothing was wrong. And he's crystal clear. He's not doing this for attention. He's not chasing sympathy or headlines. He's speaking because he can't carry the lie any longer. What's happening right now, he says, feels wrong, completely wrong. The way everyone's trying to wrap it up in glossy statements, respectful silence, and PR-safe condolences makes him sick. Because there's no clean narrative left, no way to spin this into something digestible for awards season. All that's left now is the raw truth, spilling out piece by piece, impossible to contain. Larry says it might look like grief from the outside, but it's deeper than that. It's penance, a collective reckoning for years of denial and silence. He calls it the last real attempt to make something right after decades of pretending nothing was ever wrong. And as he looked back at that Brentwood house one final time, Larry said you could almost feel the shift, the illusion cracking, the truth crawling out from under the marble floors and security gates. Because once you finally let the silence break, there's no going back. Then Larry points out the detail everyone somehow missed, the timeline. While the public thought Rob Reiner was simply slowing down, maybe stepping back, maybe losing his spark, Larry says that wasn't it at all. The distracted interviews, the long pauses, the fading creative fire, that wasn't burnout, it was exhaustion. The kind that comes from living inside a non-stop crisis you can't talk about. Larry says Rob wasn't retreating from Hollywood, he was fighting for control of his own life. Try being funny, try being creative when you're scared your own son might wreck your home if you don't send him money by noon. That line hit everyone in the room. Because that's the part, Larry says, people still don't understand. This wasn't just sadness or family tension, it was control. Constant, suffocating pressure that squeezed every bit of peace and joy out of Rob's life until the man everyone thought they knew was barely recognizable. Larry believes once the financial records come out, the picture will change completely. The transactions, the text messages, the money transfers, they don't show confusion, they show intent, planning, awareness, cold, methodical manipulation. Larry says it over and over like he's engraving it into stone. Nick wasn't out of control, he was calculating. He could turn it on like a switch, Charming when it served him, harsh when it didn't, warm in public, menacing in private, then act like nothing had ever happened. Larry calls him a chameleon, a man who could shift faces depending on what he needed from you that day. And Larry swears that mask didn't slip once, it dropped again and again. Rob saw it, Michelle saw it. Everyone close enough to the family felt that change in the air, but they kept trying to love it away. They believed compassion could fix what was breaking them. They believed patience could soften danger. But love isn't always enough, not when it's being used as leverage. Larry's confession has now shattered one of Hollywood's most comfortable myths, the idea that success equals safety. He says it doesn't. Fame doesn't protect you, he said bitterly. It just gives you taller walls to hide your pain behind. He calls it Shakespearean, a king and queen undone by the prince who wanted the crown too soon. And now Larry, the man who spent his entire life turning human discomfort into comedy, is the one left holding a story no one can laugh about. He says he can't shake one final image, the one that plays in his head every night. The house, the gate, the lights still glowing inside like the world hasn't caught up to what happened there. For years, that home symbolized power, creativity, family. But now, to Larry, it's a monument to silence, to all the times people saw the cracks forming and still looked away. And in his voice, you can hear it, that mixture of grief, rage, and truth. Larry says he's done protecting the illusion. The laughter's gone, but the honesty's here. And for the first time, it feels like someone in this city is finally telling it straight. Larry describes walking away from the Brentwood house. No cameras, no interviews, no staged moment for the press. Just silence, candles flickering at the gate, and stacks of flowers and letters spilling onto the pavement. He says he didn't look away this time. He couldn't. The weight of it followed him down the street, because deep down he knows Rob did ask for help, just not in words. He asked through that silence, a silence so heavy, so loud, no one wanted to face it until it was already too late. And this time, Larry says, there is nothing funny about it. The jokes are gone, the silence is broken, and what's rushing in feels overwhelming. Breaking the silence wasn't the ending everyone expected, it was the beginning. Since Larry started speaking out, the aftershocks have rattled the entire industry. Calls, messages, secret meetings behind closed doors, agents panicking, producers lawyering up, old friends quietly deleting photos, erasing messages, pretending they barely knew the Reiners. But Larry's not backing down. He says he's done watching people rewrite history while pretending to grieve. They're not sad, he says flatly. They're scared, because once one thread gets pulled, the whole fabric starts unraveling. Larry claims there are big names, the kind that fill entire marquees, who knew about Nick's behavior for years. They heard the whispers, saw the tension, watched the manipulation up close, and still stayed quiet. Why? Because helping would have cost them something. And now those same faces are on every talk show, clutching sympathy like a prop, acting blindsided. Larry calls it what it is, performative. The same tired PR cycle Hollywood always runs when it needs to wash its hands clean. They'll make a documentary about Rob's brilliance before they ever admit how many people ignored his pain, Larry said, his voice tightening. They'll turn it into content before they ever turn it into accountability. Then he said something that silenced the room. The truth isn't going to stop with me. Because others are speaking now too. The whispers are becoming voices, assistants, neighbors, old friends, people who saw the warning signs up close and are done pretending they didn't. Larry says Hollywood has always hidden behind nostalgia to stay clean, to make people forget. But not this time. The mask is slipping in real time, and the world is watching every crack spread. Maybe that's the real shift, Larry says. One man's grief exposing what decades of gossip never could. He insists this isn't about scandal, it's about complicity. He knows he can't save Rob now, but maybe by telling the truth, someone else can be saved. He looked the reporter straight in the eye and said quietly, "Let's not wait until it's too late." Larry says the aftermath feels surreal. The same city that used to laugh at his jokes now dissects every word he says. Talk shows, podcasts, headlines, turning grief into content. But he doesn't care anymore. At least now, he says, they're talking about something real. And for the first time, it feels different. The silence that used to protect people is cracking wide open. Former employees are stepping forward, neighbors are finally speaking up, studio insiders are reaching out quietly behind the scenes. Every new voice adds another piece to the puzzle, a family asking for help while the world just kept applauding. Larry says it feels like living in a storm now. Every day brings another message, another memory, another truth too heavy to carry but too important to ignore. Through it all, he keeps repeating one thing. This isn't about revenge, it's about responsibility. He wants people to stop glamorizing pain, to stop turning real suffering into a storyline for profit. He says the irony cuts deep. Hollywood sells stories for a living, but couldn't recognize the real one playing out right in front of it. Friends have told him to step back, to let the lawyers and PR teams handle it, to stop before he makes it worse. But Larry refuses. If I stop now, it all gets rewritten again. He's convinced the story isn't finished, not even close. There are still records, still messages, still people working hard to keep things buried. But every time someone speaks the truth, the lie loses a little more power. Then Larry paused, his voice softer but steady. He said, Rob believed in stories. He believed truth wrapped in laughter could reach people. Maybe that's how I honor him, not by being funny, but by being honest. Now, as the city braces for what comes next, Larry stands alone, not as the comedian, not as the celebrity, but as a man refusing to let silence win again. Every word that comes out of his mouth now sounds less like gossip and more like accountability finally catching up after years of being buried beneath Hollywood's polished smiles. And this time, Larry says, the truth isn't just being heard, it's echoing.